Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
There will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Today in this video, what we're going to discuss is how Vladimir Putin is actually really humiliating Donald Trump in front of the entire world in regards to this latest meeting they've had in Alaska. He's actually taken him for a real ride, okay? So what we will do today is discuss the latest developments as to what's been going on. Before we do that, we'll just get right into it and just have a brief background as to what's led up to this latest meeting. So in July 2025, President Trump wrapped up pressure on Vladimir Putin. He issued a stark ultimatum. So Russia had 10 to 12 days to agree to a ceasefire or face new steep sanctions, as mentioned by Trump.
President Trump said he's lost patience with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but is still giving him more time before facing new sanctions.
I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is.
That was a dramatic turnaround from his earlier 50-day deadline, which he personally shortened, calling out Putin's inaction. In one posture, Trump painted himself as a decisive force, ready to slap on tariffs and secondary sanctions. In another, he portrayed Putin as dragging his feet on ending a war that's actually devastating lives. But here's where optics over substances struck. Videos and headlines compared this warning to a ticking clock, yet as the deadline passed, instead of sanctions, it turned into a face-to-face invite. What was that toughness or political theatre? Only time, actually, or rather Alaska would tell.
The president also issued, Jeff, a new ceasefire deadline for Russia's President Vladimir Putin. The Russians continuing their brutal attacks against Ukraine. Tell our viewers about that.
Well, that was also very notable. Of course, all eyes have been on Ukraine and Russia for so long now, but it was 2 weeks ago when President Trump set a 50-day deadline for Russia to come to the table and make some kind of peace. President Trump shortened that dramatically. He said he is disappointed and frustrated in the Russian president. So now he said it's a 10 to 12 day time frame.
Fast forward to August 6, 2025, Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy, met Putin in Moscow ahead of the deadline. After their 3-hour meeting, Trump suggested there was a good chance a summit would be arranged soon. Then came August the 8th, the deadline. No sanctions, no show of force. Instead, Trump announced the Alaska summit scheduled for August the 15th. So, a deadline that evaporated into hospitality. Okay, Putin got an American welcome at the joint base in Alaska, a red carpet, fighter jets, the optics of power dressing up diplomacy. That's actually what it was. But beneath that show, was there anything real happening? August the 15th, 2025, Anchorage, Alaska, a military base turned stage for the Trump-Putin 2025 summit. The first Russian president visits the US since 2015 and the first US hosted summit with Russia since 2007. Trump greeted Putin with ceremony, a red carpet, F-22s and a B-2 bomber was overhead. Multiple handshakes, optics dripping with ceremony. Trump even invited Putin into his limousine. The meeting lasted roughly 2 hours and 45 minutes, which was far shy of the multi-hour spectacle some expected. At the press briefing, Trump claimed they made progress but admitted flatly that no deal until there's a deal. Putin countered, emphasizing respect and constructive tone, but a ceasefire wasn't delivered and no territory agreements were actually sealed. In the media coverage, Al Jazeera noted no breakthrough on a ceasefire. Reuters reported Trump shifting towards advocating a full peace deal over temporary measures. The Washington Post, it cautioned that while security guarantees and discussions emerged, Putin remained unrestrained.
It was just very unusual, atypical, and I think we're all awaiting, the readout, because the way that it felt in the room was not good. It did not seem like things went well, and it seemed like Putin came in and steamrolled, got right into what he wanted to say, and got his...
The Times paraphrased Trump, no business ties or lifting of sanctions until the war is settled. Trump also signaled he might walk out of the meeting if it wasn't productive. Afterwards, Zelensky launched an invitation to Washington, yet he was notably absent from the Alaska conversation. He reiterated you can't dictate Ukraine's fate without Ukraine. European leaders reinforced that any peace must honor Ukraine's sovereignty. So a summit clashing optics with tangible progress, and Ukraine was sidelined.
People, as they analyze this from the outside, this is how almost everybody's kind of universal thinking, how this ends. There's going to be some land swaps. There will be more Russian territory than there had been. And what Ukraine wants and needs desperately is our security measures that won't be NATO related. If you had to look into your crystal ball, is that how it ends?
Well, I think those are points that we negotiated, and those are points that we largely have agreed on, actually. I think we've agreed on a lot. And I can tell you, the meeting was a very warm meeting. He's a strong guy, he's tough as hell and all of that. But the meeting was a very warm meeting between two very important countries, and it's very good when they get along. I think we're pretty close to a deal. Now, look, Ukraine has to agree to it. Maybe they'll say no, because Biden handed out money like it was candy, and Europe gave him a lot of money. We gave him $350 billion. Europe gave him much less, but still a lot, $100 billion.
What would your advice, based on today, when you talk to Vladimir Zelensky, what's your advice to...
Make a deal.
Make the deal.
Got to make a deal, yeah. Look, Russia's a very big power, and they're not. They're great soldiers, and they have great, but, they also had the best equipment. They had our equipment. And I gave them javelins, if you remember, in my first term. In fact, there was a statement, I gave javelins. You remember the statement? I gave javelins, and Obama gave, because it was Obama at that time, Obama gave them sheets. And that's true. I gave javelins, and a lot of tanks were knocked out because of the javelins. The javelins, incredible weapon. It's a tank. You look at this big, powerful tank, it ends up being a ball of metal lying on the ground and burning. I've never seen anything like it. We have the greatest military equipment in the world, but they did have courage in fighting. And, they're fighting a big war machine. And we, I think, are close to a deal, but I don't like saying it. I always say, if I'm really close, I say 50-50, because so many things can happen. But I think President Putin would like to solve the problem, and it was a problem that should have never happened. This was a war. All of those families that lost somebody, and I have done.
If you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I think the meeting was a 10 in the sense that we got along great, and it's good when, two big powers get along, especially when they're nuclear powers. We're number one, they're number two in the world, and it's a big deal. That's a big deal. You never want to even mention that word, the word nuclear. But we have a tremendous nuclear. I rebuilt it when I was president, first term, and I hated to rebuild it. It was the one thing I hated to rebuild, but we had to. And we have the greatest nuclear force. We have the greatest military in the world, actually, and they have a big nuclear presence also.
So what does this performance say? Let's unpack it, ladies and gentlemen. That dramatic 10 to 12-day warning became vapor. There were no consequences, just another photo op. Trump's strategy feels more PR than punitive, all right? It rewards Putin for waiting while making Trump look tough. Neither gets us closer to ending the war. Trump's red carpet treatment helped rehabilitate Putin on the global stage. A man indicted by the ICC met US president in a military venue with military pomp. That's not normal moral leadership, it's authoritarian appeasement. Ukraine didn't have a seat at the table. Zelensky wasn't there. Yet land and peace were the themes. That breach of diplomatic norms is not accidental, it's symbolic. A powerful democracy sidelined again. Trump hailed the meeting as productive and 10 out of 10, even though he admitted failure to secure peace. The message was positive but substantially empty.
Himself, so he's about to leave. I just was texting back and forth with Sean Hannity, who just sat down with the president, and he said the president noted that he came out and said there wouldn't have been a war if he was president, and that's what part of Vladimir Putin said at the end of his written remarks. And he also said, in a scale of 1 to 10, I give today a 10. So that's the president grading what he thought of the meeting.
To see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you.
European reacts points towards unity, but America's unpredictability undermines that. If alliances perceive deeds which don't match, unity fractures. All right? Trump's style risks splintering the Democratic front. Trump's glitzy summit is precisely the sort of optics Putin thrives on. While Ukraine bleeds, Putin gets leverage. A win in the imagery, if not in the substance. If one person was applauded, it definitely was Putin, for staging the summit, for playing diplomacy while pressing forward on the battlefield. And Trump, what does he get? He gets political theater while reality remains grim. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up this video, we'll just do a quick recap and wrap up and mention the main points as to what's actually going on. So number one, there's deadline fatigue. So Trump's threats of consequences, they've actually ended up as an invitation just to wine and dine. Number two, there's no deal and there's no blame. The summit actually just created drama and peace remained elusive. Number three, Ukraine is still unfortunately excluded. Still, the most affected nation was omitted from the negotiation. Now, that's unchanged injustice, all right? And lastly, democracy is weakened by these optics. When symbolism outpaces substance, authoritarian regimes win. Now, if you want leadership in a global crisis, this definitely wasn't his. This was just a spectacle, all right? So what's the takeaway message from this overall summit, which so-called they've had? Peace needs clarity and leadership needs courage. Red carpets, they're just used for authoritarian figures and are not a substitute for hard negotiations, tough accountability and inclusive diplomacy. Now, if you call this diplomacy, it's time to question whose actually playbook we're following. Okay guys, so as a wrap up again, we can obviously conclude that Vladimir Putin successfully ran around circles around Trump and made him look silly, to be honest. I mean, it was nothing apart from, just a big whole drama with plenty of fancy, jet fighters flying around with the B-2 and F-22. But all in all, I don't think Trump has succeeded in any shape or form. It's been a win-win for Vladimir Putin. He goes back to Russia successfully. And Trump is become a joke again on a major event like this. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there. But if there's anything you'd like to add, please comment, like and share this video. We'll always be bringing you back latest developments such as this one on a daily basis. So we do read all our comments. We appreciate your time and in viewing this video. Thank you so much.